got to hospital died from their injuries. The early reports of at least 2 dead coming literally minutes after this attack began, and clearly people assessing on the scene that these 2 people had died there and then. There will then have been a whole load of other people taken in ambulances to hospitals for treatment, and it now looks, if we are to believe this local report, which is claimed comes from the police, that 13 people have died. I suspect some of those died in hospital from their injuries. But we now seem to be getting a bit more of a fuller picture about these 2 men entrenched in the restaurant. It looks as though that what has happened is that the van driver is one of these 2 men. At one point, there was the possibility there were 3 men, 1 who fled and was being hunted down, 2 who were entrenched in the restaurant. It is now, from police reports, looking as though there are only 2 men in the restaurant and only 2 men that we know about involved in this attack at the moment. But as you were talking about earlier, Neil, there are reports of a second van. Now, is that simply to get away for the 2 people who are now holed up in the restaurant? Was it supposed to be part of a second attack? Is there anything in that van that the security services need to be mindful of? They will be cordoning that off, looking, going close to it with a robot, I suspect, because we don't know what's in it. There could be explosive in it. We can only conjecture at this point, but what we can be sure about is that we now have a major terrorist incident in another European city in a year when there have been many major terrorist incidents in cities across the continent. It looks as though now that we're getting more activity with police vehicles coming and going. The area clearly a lot more sterile than it was when it all started. People who were in that area now being moved away, and we can see that there are police vehicles right in the heart, small alleyways here, people being moved out of businesses, cafes, even homes in the area, to make sure that if this turns into any kind of running battle between the men in the restaurant as they try and perhaps make a break for it, try and outrun the police, we could end up with shots being fired in the open on the streets. And the last thing that the police, the security services want to have is people getting hit by stray bullets as they try and bring this to a close. So they need to get as many people safely out of the area as they can, and they need to get everybody else indoors, windows, doors battened down, so that they can't get these people into other areas. They need to keep them in the restaurant, they need to keep them pinned down in the restaurant, and they try and get them out of there safely. At the moment, if we assume that the restaurant is surrounded by police, then it's pretty clear that at the moment the situation is relatively contained. What the police and the security service need to do is make sure that continues. They do not want this situation spilling back out onto the streets where potentially more people get hurt, Neil.
David, thanks very much. Well, as David just mentioned, there were police and other security personnel were very keen on is making sure that people left the area or moved off from the streets inside. One of those, Mel Higgins, is a tourist who's been visiting the city, and we can talk to them now. Mel, thanks for being with us. You yourself were about a couple of streets away from the van crash and found yourself barricaded inside a shop, I'm told.
Yes, that's right, yeah. So I was with my 2 daughters and we were walking down the Paseo de Gracia, which is sort of parallel and one up from the Ramblas, when suddenly just people started running towards us, screaming and shouting, "Run, run, run." So, I grabbed the 2 girls, and there was an orange phone shop was open. We ran inside and they locked the doors of the phone shop, and we just all waited there for, I suppose, probably about 20 minutes. And then it seemed very calm out on the street. And obviously the people working in Orange were in touch with the police, and the police said, just stay there for now. Then about 20 minutes later, they said we could leave, and we were just about to leave when people started running again and screaming. And they said, everyone back in. So we went back inside. At this point, they shut down the you know, the shutters, and they told us to all go upstairs. And we all went upstairs, and we were there for about 20 minutes, just sitting there waiting. And, you know, we could see everyone out on the street, and they looked quite calm by then, actually. And then, after about 20 minutes, they said, OK, the police have said, everyone, please just go home now. Just go straight home, go home as quickly as you can. And that was it, really.
So Mel, where are you and your daughters at the moment? Have you managed to get away?
Yeah, so we met up with my husband, because we were a little bit worried because he was somewhere else, but by phone we contacted him. It worked out he was okay. Met up with him, and then just walked. It was probably about a 25-minute walk home in the opposite direction to where the incident was.
And as you made that journey, we've been speaking to a number of people who've been in and around La Rambla, talking about just the sheer volume of ambulances, of police that were speeding to the location. You must have seen some of that.
Yeah, there were constant police cars, constant ambulances, police on the street, motorbikes. But people were very, very calm in the street, and they were just directing everyone in the opposite direction. But people were still wandering down towards the incident, so that was the situation.
How are your daughters after being bundled into a shop?
When we were in the shop, they were very scared because suddenly you see all these things on TV, and then even though we were safe, you know, you suddenly can understand how frightening it is. And at one point, before we were told to go upstairs, they were telling everyone to duck. So we were ducking behind the counter. And the two of them were, they were quite scared, as was I as well. And there were a couple of young children who were crying, and so it was just the unknown, really, not knowing what had happened. And then, of course, everyone started looking on their phones and found out what had happened.
Well, anyone who is caught up in a situation like that has a right to be scared. Mel, you may well not have noticed that why would you? But up until the point that this incident took place, had you noticed that the police presence on the streets? Did it strike you as quite a heavy police presence ahead of what happened this afternoon? No,
to be honest, we only arrived in Barcelona yesterday, so today was our first day going into the centre. And to be honest, no, I hadn't noticed excessive police presence, but I wasn't looking either. I know, obviously, I'm very aware of the situation at the airport because we're flying back on Monday, so I'm watching the news and, aware that the Civil Guard are taking control of that. But I really wasn't thinking about the streets.
And what do you and your husband, your family, what do you intend to do now, given what's happening just outside your door?
Probably won't go shopping. We won't go to the Ramblas tomorrow anyway. I think maybe we'll go to the beach or to a quiet place, or maybe just stay at home. Haven't quite worked it out yet. We've just come home now. We're going to watch the news, stay in tonight. I think they're telling everyone just go home. Lock your doors, go home until the situation has. I know that the people are still in the restaurant, so let's see what happens.
Well, we wish you and your family well, and very pleased that you're all safe and sound.
We're fine. Thank you very much.
Mel Higgins, many thanks indeed. Let's just bring you up to date with the very latest that we're hearing from Barcelona, where a van has crashed into crowds in a pedestrianised shopping district in the city centre. At least 13 people have been killed as a result of that. That, according to one source, I should say, Cadena Ser, that's a radio station in Spain. Other media, including El País, one of the biggest daily newspapers in Spain, saying that there are at least 10 dead. A police spokesman at the moment not confirming on the record the number of casualties, but at the very least it does appear that has moved into double figures. We are also now being told by Catalan police that they are treating this as a terrorist attack. We have heard that from a number of sources, in fact, now. Let's just bring you some new picture that we have now. It's some new video of the search taking place inside the marketplace, as you see there, and police carrying sidearms, wearing helmets, moving through. unclear as to why they're moving backwards away from a place of interest. If you notice there are line looking to the left and off camera, whether it's for colleagues to follow or because they're just checking their rear. These pictures continue. The search clearly taking place. Speaking a little earlier with our correspondent David Bowden, it does certainly appear that the occupants of that van fled on foot and are somewhere still in the city centre. There is this parallel incident that we have been told about of individuals holding themselves up in a bar. Again, we cannot confirm whether or not the armed individuals that have taken refuge, so to speak, in a bar are the individuals that caused the deaths in Las Ramblas. It would appear to be a reasonable assumption that they are in some way linked to the van, if not the people that were inside and driving it. But just to remind you, at least 13 people dead, according to one source. El País saying at least 10 dead. And as you can see at the bottom of your screen there, police are moving through the city centre of one of Spain's biggest cities, searching for the occupants of that van. We are expecting an update from Catalan police in the next few minutes. We were told that that would be taking place at around about 6 p.m. British time. Of course, in situations such as this, they tend to wish to speak to the public as soon as possible, partly to update. Of course, there's huge interest, not just in Spain, but around the world as to what is happening there, but also to reassure, to make it clear that, as the pictures we've been showing you for the past hour and a half clearly demonstrate, there is a massive police presence, armed and unarmed, uniformed and plain clothes, emergency services, including bomb disposal, including ambulances, have all arrived en masse in the city centre. Now, we're told that the Spanish president the Spanish Prime Minister is being kept abreast of events, as indeed are those in the White House and in Downing Street. The Foreign Office have changed their travel advice for this particular part of Spain, telling people to stay inside and stay away from the Las Ramblas area of the city. It may well be the case that both the State Department in the United States, the Foreign Office here in the United Kingdom, update their travel advice further as information about what has happened on the streets of Barcelona continues to emerge. 2 incidents, a van crash which has killed at least 10 people, and armed individuals holed up in a bar. You're watching